Welcome to Forum 360 on Fusion, your PBS channel. Thank you for joining us on our global outlook with a local view. I am your host, Leah Love, and we have with us today Ms. Karla McDay of Harmony House, and they provide housing for youth that are homeless or at risk. So thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit, what is Harmony House?
Harmony House is a nonprofit organization. We're dedicated to helping young men 18 to 26 who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. So we're located in Akron, and we help these young men by providing services to help them have somewhere to be versus the haven arrest or on the streets.
Okay. What gave you the idea to start this?
Because for a long time I worked in child welfare, so I understood the plight of youth emancipating from the foster care system. I could understand that it was difficult for them to launch out on their own and get started. They are oftentimes underemployed. They don't have the resources to start a home of their own, to get into their own first-time apartment. So it was a good idea, I thought, to have these young men sort of pool their resources, live together in a shared living environment, and then be able to establish themselves so that they could go then live on their own.
Okay. How long has it been open?
Harmony House has been in existence since about 2009 and actually opened in 2012.
Okay. So what is your vision, your long-term vision for Harmony House?
My long-term vision is for us to have scattered site houses throughout the community where young men can come and stay, get themselves established, get on their feet, and then transition into their own housing. So I'd like for us to have more than one house, and for young men in the community to recognize our name as a safe haven, someplace they can come, live that is drug and alcohol free, clean, safe environment in decent neighborhoods, and know that they have somewhere to be until they can move on.
Where is it located at?
Our current house is in East Akron, and it's near Joy Park Community Center. And it is near the University of Akron, kind of close to downtown and off of Arlington Street.
How many people can you house?
We have 5 beds in our current house, and we're working on a second house, and we hope to have 5 beds at that house as well.
Okay. So what services do you provide?
When young men come into our house, what we do is we like to consider ourselves a program that functions off of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what that means is you want to help people get established by providing their basic needs. So food, clothing, and shelter are our primary services. We are partners with the Akron-Canton Regional Food Bank, so we have food in our house at all times. Not necessarily meals, but definitely food. We have shelter, obviously, and all of the toiletries, all of the things that young men need to come in to get established are provided. My church is Second Baptist Church, and they have been very instrumental, especially the ushers ministry and my pastor, Reverend Roderick Pounds, in making sure that the house is always stocked with toilet paper and toothpaste and hygiene supplies. So we try to give them everything they need, including free haircuts, so that when they come in, they can get established essentially overnight. When a young man moves into our house, they will automatically have access to Wi-Fi. They will have a landline telephone. They will have their own room with a locking door. So, and then all of their hygiene supplies and food is available to them as well. That kind of takes care of Maslow's fundamental rung of needs, basic needs, and that's what we want to do. Okay.
What are the rules while they're there?
I'd like to say that they're very simple. We are a drug and alcohol free environment. We don't do guests at all, because my theory is that if we have 5 young men in the house and each of them have a guest, that's a party, and we don't want to have parties. So we don't really do guests at all. The young men don't have curfews. They're all adults. They're 18 to 26 years old. So they can move and come and go as freely as they like. But we ask that they respect the house and respect one another. We don't do any pets at all. And let me see, no overnight guests, no daytime guests. That's pretty much it. No drugs and no alcohol.
Now, how long are they allowed to stay?
That's the interesting question. Our young men come to our house, and I'd like to say it's based on needs. So rather than trying to put really harsh limits on how long you stay, I feel like our program is developed so you stay as long as you need to until you can be established. So we don't have hard timelines about when you need to leave. It's kind of done when it's done.
Okay. So one of the things you offer, you said, is like helping them with the budgeting and everything else like that, so they're able to go out and be successful with it?
Yes. And the way we do that is we are ran by a nonprofit board, and our board consists of multiple individuals from different disciplines. So we have an accountant on our board. Her name is Lakeisha Barclay. We have Anthony Grimes on our board. He's an executive director of a nonprofit organization in the community. We have Lisa Belcher Nelson, who works at Tri-C, and she's an educator. So what I ask is for all of these people. Kimberly Oliver is another person on our board. She's a magistrate in the community. I ask for all of the board members to bring their time and their talent to the young men, so we service them as a group of professionals. So obviously if you have a first-time college student, I could recommend Lisa Nelson, or also Lisa Pullen. Dr. Lisa Pullen is another person that's on our board. If you have some needs that are related to your first lease or getting your first car, we could talk to our, magistrate Kim Oliver. So we can talk to different people on the board and get our needs met. And Lakeisha has been very instrumental, as you can imagine, in helping us stay focused and budgeted, but also helping the young men when they need it.
Okay. So I guess to piggyback kind of off of that, what happens after 90 days?
We don't have a really hard timeline for people to leave. So when you say after 90 days, I'm not exactly sure. When they get in and they get established, we typically try to start some service planning for them. So talking about what their goals are. Do you want to go back to school? Would you like to see yourself in your own apartment? Can we help you get in Job Corps and in the military, or whatever their goals are? So they kind of lead and guide their service plans by telling us what it is they want to do.
Okay, now if they leave and they need to return, is that an option?
It is an option if they leave on good terms.
Okay.
Obviously, if you can't keep up with our simple rules of no drugs, no alcohol, no overnight guests, and you want to return, we'd have to take that under consideration as a board. But typically, if young men leave and they want to return, it has happened, and it can happen.
Okay. What are your signature events that you hold each year?
Well, we started with these natural hair care events. We had them probably in 2014 and maybe one again in 2015 or 16. And what we did was we asked women from the community to come in, and we talked about natural hair and talked about techniques for taking care of their hair. And that was our way of introducing people to our program and what we do. And Leah, you may remember, because you were one of our panelists who served for the natural hair event. Most recently, our most recent fundraiser was just recently in March of this year, and we had what was known as Harmony and Soul. And we actually had live entertainment from Akron's Real Deal at the Summit Art Space. And we had an evening out for adults, and it was quite lucrative, and we were able to raise some money to help us with our goals.
Okay, good. So how do you provide your services, your delivery model?
What we do is we ask each of those board members that I mentioned to you earlier to lend their time and talent, as well as their treasure, to the program. So the board members come in and they help by assisting the clients whenever they need something that's within their area of expertise. I happen to be a master's level social worker with a great deal of experience with youth exiting foster care. Dr. Lisa Pullen is another social worker who's on our board. So we all kind of pull together our talents, and then we provide them to the youth in the program as needed. So that is our basic service delivery model. We have a resident advisor who lives on site. He is older than 26 years. So he serves as our eyes and ears in the evening. If we have problems in the house, he's the person who would make me aware of those. But weekly, I go over and we have house meetings, typically on Saturdays, just to talk about if there's any conflict, if there have been any problems, if people aren't getting along, did the dishes get done. So that is our basic service delivery model.
Okay. Is there a cost to the residents?
Yes, there is a cost to the residents. Right now, our program, because we wanted to get started, and initially we felt the need to really help people, but we didn't have the resources. So we went with this model that would require a young person to pay $10 a day. And for this $10, again, they check in, they get their access to Wi-Fi, their own room, their locking door, laundry facilities, a haircut, all of their toiletries. But we had to charge $10 a day because we wanted to keep the lights on. We had to have the gas on. So until we got grant funding and got ourselves established, that's how we chose to get started. People can pay by the day, they can pay by the week, or they can pay by the month. Sponsorships are always encouraged. Sometimes people will say, hey, I'd like to sponsor a young man for 7 days. I'd like to sponsor a young man for 10 days or even for the month. And that way we would take the funds from that individual and apply it towards someone who really needs it. If we run into a young man that's not working or doesn't have any other resource available to them to pay.
Okay. And who are some of your partners that are in the community?
Well, I mentioned the Akron Canton Regional Food Bank. We're partners with them. Also, SOS Street Outreach Services. It is a drop-in center for young people up to age 21 who may be having challenges in their home or struggling with homelessness. They oftentimes call us and provide us with young people who need someplace to stay. So we get referrals from them. We're also involved with 211. So if you call 211 and you say, I'm in need of housing, they may give you our phone number. Additionally, the United Way is a place that people can make pledges to Harmony House when they come around and they have the annual campaign at work. Individuals can give their pledge for Harmony House and we would get our funding that way. So they're another partner of ours. Second Baptist Church and United Baptist Church have been huge supporters of Harmony House as well. So as it relates to partners, those are the ones that are on the top of my head.
Okay, good. And I am your host, Leah Love, so thank you again if you're just tuning in. We are talking to Ms. Karla McDay about the Harmony House, which provides housing for youth that are homeless or at risk. Okay, so you talked a little bit about your grant funding. How has that whole process been as far as going about starting to learn how to do it and how much you've gotten or how much you still need?
Difficult, if you want me to put it in one word. Our very initial grant came from the Home Depot.
Okay.
And they came into our home and they were able to do a remarkable job with renovations. They gave us a complete paint job on the exterior. They gave us a new commode in the bathroom. We actually got new flooring throughout the house, linoleum in the kitchen and carpet in other parts of the house. So they put linoleum in the basement where we do our haircuts. They did an excellent job of blessing us with the grant funding that we received from them. We currently have about 3 grants that are in the works, and it is a process. As you can imagine, it's difficult, but Keisha's very good at helping us to try to stay on task, and so are some of our other board members like LaToya Harris, who helps with government funding and government grants. So that's her primary job, and she's very instrumental in helping us do our grants.
Okay, so we have a special guest with us, Mr. Julius. So tell me, what has this program, this opportunity meant to you?
What it meant to me was that, so I was 18, looking for a house. I was trying to move out of my parents' house. They don't want to really live there no more, so I said, let me see. So I got some connections with some people, and they ended up getting in contact with Harmony House, and I was put there with her.
And you said you found out about it through some of your friends?
Yeah, some actually not friends, but connections. I've just been asking random people.
Okay.
And they just been helping me out.
So how long have you been there?
A year now. I know, actually almost a year.
A year?
Almost. It's about to be a year in June 1st.
So how would you say that this program has helped you, that you've benefited from it in this past year?
Be honest, if I wasn't, I like to spend money a lot, so. But me, I learned how to budget my plans, make a plan, so I make sure everything before I even buy something. It's like, if I'm looking at some jewelry, I'll be like, okay, how much would this cost? Then I'll be like, okay, that's how much I need to save and go up to this amount, pay my bill, pay my phone bill, get everything done first. And then if I got enough, then I'll just go for that.
Good, good. So where do you think you would be if you didn't have this?
Be honest, probably still at my parents' house. More likely, yeah.
All right, Miss Karla. So how can people get involved if they want to help, and what do you need at this point?
We can always benefit from hygiene supplies. We can use soap powder, trash bags, those kinds of things that you would need in your house are the same things we need in our house. Even though we're partners with the food bank, I think our guys like cool non-perishables. And by that I mean things like Kool-Aid and microwave popcorn and ramen noodles and those types of things. So things that you wouldn't traditionally get from a food bank, things different than canned goods, will always be beneficial to us. In our basement we keep a donated clothing room, so we could always use donated clothes as well. We don't try to take lots and lots of clothing in because we only service 5 people at the house, so I don't need a ton of those, but that's something that we would be open to.
Okay. What's been the best part of this journey?
It's rewarding to meet people like Julius, to be able to help young men get on their feet. That whole transition between 18 and 26 is one of the most difficult times, I believe, in the lives of young people. So to be able to help young people and see them get established is just absolutely positively rewarding. And I know for me that was probably the most difficult part of my journey. So I think that people really need assistance then, and it's just about the time that your parents think you're an adult is when you need the most help, in my opinion. So helping them, meeting the young people, and working with them is rewarding.
Okay. What do you think people are most unaware of?
The numbers, the sheer numbers of young people who are homeless. I believe the point in time count in 2014, which is a national count that's put on by HUD, they typically go out in the winter and they count the number of homeless people on the street. And then they categorize them, some of which are young people. Last time they did it, they had over 50,000, I think it was, young people sleeping in the streets. So that's quite a bit.
Do they list like the causes of it or some of the factors that really contribute to it?
Well, what we know is that, again, the economy is a major contributing factor. People oftentimes are underemployed. They cannot afford fair market rent. So that's been one of the things that they cite as some of the concerns. Family issues. Oftentimes people don't realize it, but if the mom is homeless or there's been problems with the primary caregiver, then that renders these young people homeless as well. So those are some of the contributing factors.
So what would you say if money was no object, what would that picture of Harmony House look like?
Oh, wow. If we didn't have to worry about money, I think our houses would be very nice. We would probably have transportation in that we would have Harmony House vans to assist people who need transportation. We would have an unlimited amount of bus passes. We would have nicer furnishings. We would have probably flat screens in every room. I would just fantasize about what we could do and how we could service these young people better and make them more comfortable as they attempt to move on. The primary thing, though, that we need is volunteers or staff persons. If I could have a staff person, I think sometime, because all of these board members are dedicated and they're invested and they believe in the cause, but they all work, as do I. So we have to all kind of do this, and this is our way of giving back outside of our primary employment. So if money were no object, we'd have some staff people.
Okay. I know you said you partner with some of the organizations in the community. Are there other ways that you kind of market or advertise that people can be on the lookout or aware of?
Well, we have a website. It's www.akronharmonyhouse.org. We don't really have formal advertisement. We thank you for an opportunity to be here today to share our message in the community, but that would probably be the primary way. You could also find us through 211 info line in Summit County. So. Okay.
That's what I was just about to ask you. What's the best way for people to contact you?
They can contact us through info line, and also it's easiest to reach us through our website. Again, it's www.akronharmonyhouse.org. Our phone number is listed there. You can also reach us via email through that website.
Okay. And going back to the beginning, you said in 2009 was the beginning. So what gave you the courage to start?
I think that seeing the need probably gave me the courage to start. And in 2009 is when myself and Dr. Pullen and Anthony Grimes came together and the idea was sort of born. We had all recognized the need in our community. for young men to have housing and to be safe and to get established. So that is probably what really got us started, was we recognized the need. And so the courage came as a result of that.
What's been one of the things that you kind of underestimated in the process?
Probably the fact that you have to document and write down everything as relates to rules. One of our very early experiences was we started and we would provide participants our program information, and I went into this young man's room and I thought something terrible was going on because there was a foul odor, and I opened his closet and there was a cobra. He had a very large snake in his room, and I went to him and I said, "Look, you can't have a snake. This is a shelter. We're trying to help you get established." And he said, "Well, you didn't say you couldn't have pets." So it's very important that we list the rules and that we're clear and all the expectations are clear, especially for young men in this population. Oftentimes I think that young people want to test the limits, and you have to be firm about what the limits are. So that was just one of my surprising kind of stories that I remember from the past. Julius finds that amusing. No pets, Julius.
Now you primarily do men, and why not women?
We want to move to women eventually, but we felt like there was a real need in the community, and oftentimes young women have access to more resources than do the young men in our community. That's been my observation. So eventually we would like to get out there and help young women, but for young men 18 to 26, I found that there was very little available to them.
Okay. Now 26 as a cutoff, was there any particular reason why you chose that number?
Yeah, transition age youth are considered, I believe, up to age 21 by the United States Housing and Urban Development. I think that what happened is there are this new generation of transition age youth, is what they call them. And they're called that because they have not quite launched into adulthood as it used to be. I think that in my generation, or even in the generation of my parents, people used to get or be able to secure full-time, stable employment with benefits and get themselves established. You know, our city, Akron, was known for Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company. You could literally leave high school, come out, be established, start earning a decent income and raise a family. Those kind of realities are no more. So what we wanted to do was try to reach this population of people who have this extended young adulthood, if you would, where they just don't have the resources needed yet to be able to hold down their own homes and have their own independent housing. So I think that that's it.
Okay. In this last little bit, I want to learn a little bit more about both of you,
Okay.
personally. So tell me, what is your favorite restaurant in Akron?
I don't got none.
None?
I would probably say the mustard seed.
The mustard seed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What's your favorite book?
Recently I have been reading, let me think, Breaking the Psychological Chains of Slavery. That's one of my...
What is that?
Breaking the Psychological Chains of Slavery.
Okay.
That's a book that I have been really studying recently and
What have
trying
you
to
gained from
dissect. Just that it's important for us to be able to, especially in the African American community, work together, to collaborate, to try to partner, and to try to be beneficial and help one another. I think that the struggle is real in many communities, but it's very real in our community for housing and even for access to basic resources like healthcare and those kinds of things. So this book has given me some insight just on, you know, what some of our past history and trauma has caused us to deal with and how it all affects and plays out for the African American community today.
Actually, I do got a favorite restaurant. Two of them, actually.
Okay.
Bravo and Applebee's.
Do you have a favorite book?
Military, realistic, and bloody and gore stuff.
Okay. What would be your life mantra or favorite quote?
One of mine is probably our slogan, and our slogan is, "We have housing so they have hope." And the reality is, I once heard Tony O'Leary of Akron Metropolitan Housing say that if you don't have housing, you don't have anything. And I really believe that to be true. I think housing is the fundamental place where you begin your life and establishing your family and yourself. And without a home, where can you start anything? Where do you start your day? Where do you start anything? How can you have even thoughts about a future? So having housing so they have hope is probably my slogan.
Awesome. If you don't have housing, you don't have hope. A wonderful way to end our segment today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We want to thank you for tuning in and joining us on our Global Outlook with a Local View. I'm your host, Leah Love. Enjoy your week.
Forum 360 is brought to you with support from Electric Impulse Communications, Kim and Harvey Nelson, Rubber City Radio Group, Akronist.com, Hudson Cable, Medical Mutual of Ohio, Forum 360 supporters, and the Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron.